Hello, my name is Brianna Fisher. The Muslim American community in North Carolina is small and tight-knit. They go about their lives just as other groups. They participate in politics, own businesses, go to college, and live an American lifestyle. The only thing that makes Muslims different from Christians, Jews, atheists, agnostics, Hindus, Buddhists, and pagans is a religion that has been put under a microscope since 9/11. Whether international or American-born, Muslims receive a negative view because a few members of their religious community commit harmful acts. Coming to university, many students encounter people of different backgrounds for the first time. Because of that, university is a place to discuss and communicate with one another about different experiences. I'm here with Leroy Wright, the Interim Vice Chancellor of Student Development, to discuss the role of students, faculty, and staff at Appalachian in developing conversations regarding religion, immigration, and identity. Hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, first, what is the role of the Vice Chancellor? What do they do?
Well, I currently serve as Interim Vice Chancellor, as you highlighted. My normal job is Associate Vice Chancellor, but currently as Interim Vice Chancellor, I have oversight of the Division of Student Development, which includes about 13 departments, 270 employees, and 1,000 plus student employees. As a part of what we do, we have a variety of opportunities that support life outside of the classroom, which range from anything from university recreation, career services, multicultural student development, student engagement and leadership, the health center, counseling center, and the list goes on and on and on. But a lot of our activities, programs, and events support the transformational experience of students at Appalachian.
Awesome. So what are some things that you directly do to affect student lives?
I think some of the biggest things is to ensure that our campus is safe, to ensure that students are safe, to ensure that students feel like they're inclusive. Appalachian's an inclusive and welcoming environment. Like I said, there's a variety of different initiatives that we do to support the student experience both inside and outside of the classroom. We have 400 plus student organizations that students are engaged in. We have over 32 fraternities and sororities that students participate in, which is almost like 2,000 students that are engaged in that particular area. But I always like to say my goal as Vice Chancellor is to create a healthy, happy community of students, and so that through their experiences at Appalachian, they can navigate what the world has to offer after Appalachian.
Definitely. So how do you think a college campus, because we're talking about precedents and inclusivity, how do you think a college campus sets precedents for the community around it?
I think one of the big things is to have a strong partnership, not only with Appalachian community, but the Boone and Watauga community as well. As it relates to creating an inclusive and welcoming environment, as many of you or you have seen yourself, that it's highlighted in our mission and our strategic plan of the university, is to create a community where people feel valued, respected, and welcomed.
Definitely. So because this topic is kind of about Muslims and how Muslim students play a role into our student life, so what programs do you know are being presented specifically to help Muslim students and to also help the rest of the students on campus to be able to have a more wide view and more inclusive view?
That's a good question. We have a variety of initiatives, not just to support Muslim students, but also other underrepresented communities of students. There are things that from Intersect Retreat, which deals with intersectionality, navigating microaggressions, and basically figuring out who you are and what place that you have at Appalachian as it relates to your culture, your background, your beliefs, and things like that. We have Sustained Dialogue, which is an ongoing program that fosters more dialogue and communication, not around, I guess in a sense, around very specific topics. We also have Equity in Action Conference that we support as a division as well. There's a variety of other things from diversity celebration. We recently had our Free Speech Summit that took place on campus. I think one of the things that you opened up with was engaging the campus in conversations around a variety of topics. As it relates specifically to Muslim students, we have a strong Muslim Student Association who has a strong connection and support within that organization to support Muslim students both domestically and internationally. We have an international student organization called NTAP that also supports a variety of students from international connections. I grew up in the city of Detroit. Outside of Detroit, there's a place called Dearborn, Michigan, which is probably one of the largest if not the largest Muslim communities in the nation. And so I think having those kinds of backgrounds and connections helps me as Vice Chancellor to be sensitive to our Muslim student community issues, and making sure that, you know, there's a place for all students here, and particularly Muslim, where you're Christian, atheist, everyone belongs as a part of the Appalachian community.
And you definitely said, you spoke about how your own experiences being around Muslim students helped you. And obviously here we don't have as big a community as where you originally were from, but how, what are ways that students can get involved, like with the dialogue circles? What are some other outlets that students can go to?
Well, Appalachian Community Together is the department that leads the Sustained Dialogue Initiative, and that's an office that's connected to the Division of Student Development. We've had a variety of opportunities, such as bias training, that students, faculty, and staff have engaged in. I know Bindu Jain, in her former role as Associate Vice Chancellor for the EDC Center, which deals with the equity, compliance, and diversity issues, that provides a forum for students to understand their own biases, or faculty and staff to understand their own biases, as well as, you know, how do we confront those things ourselves, or how do we think differently, or how do we become more knowledgeable and aware, particularly of our Muslim student community issues and concerns. I know in my past experiences, and I've been at Appalachian for a year, I know that people have biases or their own stereotypes around dietary needs of our Muslim students, or even a Muslim student who may wear a headscarf. I mean, there's a variety of perceptions that people have or would make up if they're not educated or more informed about, you know, who our Muslim students are, who, you know, what their needs are, concerns as it relates to Appalachian or even the Boone community.
And you definitely talked about supporting our Muslim students and finding ways. So what ways are faculty and staff being taught how to engage in conversation, as well as making sure our Muslim students feel they have a place here?
I think engaging faculty, staff, and students in all issues related or connected to underrepresented communities, particularly Muslim students. I think there's always opportunity for more engagement, more education, more awareness. We've had a variety of forums and panels and opportunities for our Muslim students to share their perspectives, or even underrepresented students in general, to talk about what does it mean to be a mountaineer, what does it mean to be a part of the Appalachian community. And I think, you know, we just recently had a free speech summit, and one of the goals of the free speech summit is to navigate, you know, opportunities for students to feel like they're being heard, or how do you exercise your voice or your rights as a citizen as it relates to your First Amendment. But then also, what does that mean when you're, you know, using hate speech, or you're using negative speech? And again, it's just speech. And so how do you resolve those anxieties or those, you know, emotional connections that individuals may have that may be connected to, you know, their personal identity or who they are? And I think ongoing efforts are to create a safe space and a welcoming environment for all students, as well as Muslim students.
And you said a lot about free speech. So what do you consider the difference between free speech versus hate speech? Like, what defines that?
Well, I think speech in general, I think, is an opportunity for individuals to exercise their voices and to share their perspectives. I think a lot of people get, you know, a sense of fear and anxiety that comes along with being confronted with hate speech. Oftentimes people misconstrue what free speech is versus what hate speech is versus what fighting words are. And I think becoming more knowledgeable of our constitutional rights, understanding what the actual law says, and what is protected speech and what isn't protected speech. And I think sometimes if someone's, you know, calling me names, or, you know, attacking my person and my identity, I think there's a difference between, you know, saying, Leroy, as an African-American male, I feel this way about African-American people. I mean, I can get personally offended by that, or, you know, recognize, well, that's just how that person feels, and that person is exercising their right to use their voice. I may not like it, I may not understand why behind it, but I think it's important for me to engage in what do I need to do to navigate that, and how I'm going to use my own voice to seek understanding, or even to engage in ways that's going to allow that person to be understood.
Definitely. And also along with like the hate speech, or like people might not think microaggressions, like that is a form of kind of hate speech in smaller ways, but how do you believe that microaggressions are harmful to students' identities?
Well, I think as students are developing their identities, I mean, they have a variety of experiences that they're navigating on a college campus. I think creating a foundation or a space for students to engage in conversation, or to say, I don't understand, or here's who I am. I mean, I always tell a student that between the first day that they start as a first year student and the time that they graduate, there should have been this transformational experience that have occurred. So you should have been connected to a variety of resources. You should have been exposed to volunteerism and service. You should have, figured out where you are in your beliefs and your values, and how does that help you grow as a person. So I think navigating the term microaggression, I think people have different interpretations of what that means. But then having things like bias training, having things where we bring experts to campus, or we navigate training opportunities or workshops and seminars that help people understand themselves, that also provide a forum for people to respect other people or get to know other people. So I think addressing stereotypes, addressing our own prejudices, navigating the space of privilege, all those kinds of things connect with who we are and our identity. And so sometimes, if I'm attacked as vice chancellor for student development because of what I say, then there's a way for me to seek understanding, or to also challenge back with, why do you feel that way, or what does that mean to you? And I think having that modeling the way kind of perspective helps students navigate those issues themselves, but also letting folks know that there are resources on campus. There's ways to report bias incidents. There's ways to address your own feelings and emotions by using the counseling center. We have our multicultural student development. So we have a lot of different areas that could help support students in navigating those kinds of microaggressions, identity issues, navigating where feelings of hate speech, or feelings where your person is being attacked. And oftentimes we use more speech when we're trying to navigate free speech kinds of things, or hate speech. But how do you find that balance between respect and mutual understanding? And I think that's where college students have to figure out is, there are people who are going to say a variety of things in this world. There are people who are going to communicate a variety of things that make you uncomfortable. But how do you navigate that with more speech? How do you navigate that with factual information? How do you navigate doing more research to better understand perspectives and ideas?
Definitely. So you talked about like getting to know your faith and practicing it while you're in college. So are there places where Muslim students feel like they can have a space to practice their faith? Because I know there is the third floor, they have the meditation room up there, and I think some Christian groups use that, but do you know if like any Muslim students have used it?
Well, I think the Plemmons, the meditation room and the Plemmons Student Union, I think that space is for all faiths to navigate or to utilize. I know the nearest mosque is in Morganton, North Carolina. Unfortunately, there isn't one in Boone, and so how do we use our spaces or get creative to support our Muslim student community? And I think our Muslim students have learned to navigate that space or their needs by using the Plymouth Student Union, or using another room in the student union, or any space on campus for that purpose. But I think a lot of students have traveled to Morganton, or have gotten creative in how they exercise their beliefs from a Muslim perspective.
Definitely, that's great. And also, you talked about our international students here, and some that come from the Middle East, and how are we providing them resources, and how are we supporting them in their journey?
I think one of the biggest things is the Office of International Education has created a space for ongoing dialogue and communication. The NTAP student organization, the Muslim Student Association have done a variety of things to have that safe community within. I know our chancellor has used the approach of working advisory groups. One of the initiatives that was addressed was to bring a group of people together to work on what does immigration issues mean for us at Appalachian. How do we support our DACA students in providing more forums where we can bring an immigration attorney to campus to assist our students in answering questions that they may have. We used an opportunity to deal with rumors versus reality by bringing an immigration attorney to Appalachian, which created a forum for students to ask questions, to navigate what does this mean for faculty, staff, and students who may be impacted by these variety of issues going on in the world. And so I think continuing that model of a working advisory group to figure out how do we provide information, how do we provide support, how do we create a forum for our faculty, staff, and students to be able to feel safe, to get the questions that they need answered, and to also have guidance from a variety of internal and external experts.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that the reason you brought the immigration attorney over is because of like President Trump's recent executive orders and his kind of like navigation of how he wants to go about immigration?
I think there's a variety of different things that we have to navigate, not just at Appalachian, but on any university campuses. How do we seek more understanding? How do we use our campus attorneys to help us in creating a space where faculty, staff, and students feel like they can go to get the answers or support that they need? And I think that's through more panels, more forums, more opportunities for dialogue and conversation. I think as we continue to explore, yes, there are going to be people impacted directly and indirectly by some of the executive orders that our president has implemented. But then we're still navigating what's law and what's not law. How do we provide that education and awareness so that our community better understands what this means, both from a student perspective, but also a faculty and staff perspective as well.
Definitely. And so while we are trying to grow a community of inclusivity also, but future leaders are definitely made in college. So how does college prepare students to make positive ethical decisions?
Oh, that's a good question, but I think providing more opportunities for awareness, knowledge, through, we have we're probably one of the largest study abroad student experiences in the country. We provide forums for students to become global citizens, and what does that mean for navigating a variety of diverse connections? I mean, we're not all going to work in the same team that looks just like us. So how do we create that mutual respect and understanding for difference? How do we use opportunities to, provide forums and panels where, whatever our major or program is, that there's a direct connection to inclusivity or to diversity, and how do we celebrate that space from pretending, or I guess in a sense, attending things like our diversity celebration, where there's a variety of different forums and activities for people to be exposed to celebrating culture and difference. We have a variety of initiatives that our Multicultural Student Development Office does, from celebrating a variety of different student communities, from Hispanic heritage celebrations to Native American celebrations to Black History Month celebrations. So I think as we continue to expose our students to a variety of activities such as that, I think they learn to find themselves, their own identity, or they create spaces to lead efforts to be able to work with people who may be different, or to also engage in intercultural competencies. I mean, you have to go to workshops, you have to attend sessions to understand people, and also you have to learn how to expose yourself to making connections with people who don't look like you as well.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, while it's important to make connections with people who don't look at you, what would you say to students that still feel targeted by their religion?
I think that's going to be a reality that's not just going to happen on Appalachian's campus. It's going to happen outside of Appalachian campus. I think as we continue, or as students continue to mature and understand themselves, I think better equipping our students to I guess in a sense, learn how to navigate those things and respect the fact that, your beliefs are important, your values are important, and if those are things that you connect with, by all means, you have to exercise your perspectives and rights to do that and to be yourself. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't worship, or you can't believe, or you can't respond to things in ways that support your own identity. And so I think it's important for students to embrace that, to embrace themselves, to value who they are, to appreciate the differences, and learn that whatever they bring to the table is something unique and special. And I think sometimes we have to help students manage their own emotions and anxieties that connect with that, because we live in a society that, unfortunately, oppression is a part of that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of systemic issues that prevent people from being themselves, and it's hard and it's difficult. I know that, when we had a variety of issues from HB2 and supporting our trans community students, my goal is to always create a space for students to be heard. My goal is also to encourage my staff when you walk in different spaces and on campus, that a student can feel that I feel included, I feel welcomed, I feel valued. I know that if I go to the rec center, I know that I can be supported. I know if I go to the dining services, I know that I can engage in conversations about my dietary needs as a Muslim student, as an example. So there are spaces where students can navigate a variety of those things, but I don't think a lot of students are willing to do that, and so I have to provide more information, more opportunities for students to know where the resources are. Even if it's like, as an example, of food insecurities. So where are the food pantries on campus? Where are the resources for navigating those things? And so it's constant conversation, constant communication, constant awareness about of all these initiatives that are going on campus.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And so I guess the flip side to the question I asked was kind of like, what about students that feel like they're threatened by people of certain religions? What would you say about that?
I think helping folks understand that you are you, and it's okay to be you. And there are going to be times when we may be offended by a variety of things. We may be offended by what people say. We may be offended by what people are doing. But it's how do we address our own self in that? How do we manage ourselves where we're secure in understanding who we are, that we're secure in knowing that it's okay to believe what I believe. It's okay to value what I value, but also it's up to you in that interaction that you have with the other person is to find that mutual respect that you have. We're never going to agree on a variety of issues. We may have disagreements in this world, but it's how do you engage in civil dialogue? How do you engage in respecting difference? And we have diversity of thought and perspective. And then there's forums where if a person feels that they're unsafe or they feel like they need to get help, we have the Dean of Students office, we have my office, we have the ASU police, we have bias incident reporting. So there's a variety of mechanisms in place for folks to get assistance or to find the resource that's going to make them or help them feel comfortable and safe at Appalachian.
Definitely. And the last question I have, you said safety at Appalachian is very important. So how do we create a community at Appalachian? What are ways that you think we could help create a better community for everyone?
I think for one, Appalachian has a culture of care for faculty, staff, and students. I think it's how we self-manage ourselves amongst that culture of care. It's how we engage in opportunities that's going to help us feel safe and aware. We have a variety of initiatives and activities that promote a culture of care and inclusivity. And so I think engaging students more in those opportunities helps students take not only responsibility for themselves, but they also have an opportunity to provide a system of support for their peers. There's that whole bystander intervention kind of mindset. We all are mountaineers. We're all connected by the Appalachian experience. And so I think it's important for us to take care of ourselves, to take care of this place, and to take care of each other as a part of that.
Yes, definitely. And I've definitely felt like through my time here, I've been able to find a support system and been able to create a community as well. So thank you very much for coming, and I appreciate you answering my questions.
Thank you for inviting me to participate.
Thanks. Appalachian State University by no means has the perfect solution to any problem facing the world. However, the more open and aware students are of pressing issues, the more understanding can be passed between one another. I hope this discussion has given you questions to think about and allows you to begin your own conversations with your family or friends. I appreciate Mr. Wright for taking his time to speak with me. I'm Brianna Fisher reporting for Appalachian Interview.